Hey, what's up guys, Rev here. So today I took another trip on Twitter so you didn't have to, and we're going to look at all of the anime related news and stories that I think are worth covering. So we're going to start off with some more complaints about the Frieren Anime. Now we've made a couple of videos about this anime as it's debuted, and we have covered some of the outrage involving some themes that Western Twitter found problematic. Now curiously today we're going to cover some outrage coming from Chinese viewers who have an issue with this franchise claiming that this anime is disrespectful to women. Now, the reasons that this Chinese website claimed are very, very wild, and this Chinese portal site is apparently called Sina. Now, they claim that this anime, the Frieren Anime, doesn't respect women because there were scenes that make fun of women's endowments. Now, this is interesting coming out of China because typically when we look at calls for censorship coming out of China, we can really reduce it to a few topics typically that are talked about, and that's LGBT themes, censorship of violence, of nudity, and sexual themes like that. It's interesting to see calls for censorship relating to disrespecting women when the case is just making fun of a woman's endowments. Protecting thy lady from hurtful words. Now, the site would continue to make more claims as to why this is disrespectful to women. In fact, they would also say their conclusion is supported by the fact that the two main female heroines flirt with male characters. So disrespectful to women that they have the ability to flirt with men. That's very disrespectful to women to give them that sort of a notion, which is funny because there are a lot of very strong female leads in that anime. But anyways, they would also go on to say that, in quotes, 90% of Japanese anime and manga present something of this type, these types of jokes we're talking about, to the point that it's considered a classic joke. Now, what's interesting is we would get some replies to that article, the Chinese article, and they are just chef's kiss. They are great. So let's read this first one. It says, in the anime, there is a character who can use his clairvoyance, and when he applies it to a male character, he mocks the size of his It's not logical to say that mocking a woman's body is disrespectful to women, while mocking a man's body is funny. It's a double standard, right? Which is exactly the point. It is a double standard. If they're going to find the one thing disrespectful, the other thing must be disrespectful as well, but the Chinese article did not point that out. Here's another comment saying, in my opinion, today's viewers are bored. They insult trivial things and are always creating controversies about culture, society, the lack of respect for women, and discrimination. First of all, isn't watching anime a pleasure? Yeah, imagine watching an anime for pleasure and trying to not worry about all these real world themes. Crazy thought. But they go on to say sensitive people should not watch anime or read Japanese manga. In the eyes of these people, any work of art will only be seen as racist. Now, this last comment is the best one. This one is funny. It says, I know it sounds bad, but some people would do well to watch children's cartoons like Peppa Pig or Paw Patrol. That way, they won't feel offended by the productions. The characters are not human, therefore, they will not see any type of discrimination. Yeah, I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm pretty sure people offended by stuff like the Frieren Anime, they would find ways to be offended by Paw Patrol too. They would read too deep into some basic episode about that. But nonetheless, I thought this article was interesting and some of the replies were pretty funny. Now let's move on. Some more people being offended by anime, and this has been a very popular theme recently, and that is people complaining about the Berserk franchise. This tweet just kind of vaguely sums up some of this set of complaints coming out about this franchise and its creator because it is really sad to see. I have noticed multiple YouTube channels as well as many Twitter accounts who have dedicated their entire online presence to crapping all over Berserk and its creator Kentaro Miura. Okay, that's all they do. I've seen YouTube channels exclusively dedicated to it, and I've seen Twitter accounts make long threads calling out this franchise and its creator and dragging literally a dead man's name through the mud for clout. Now, I'm not going to show any of these threads or any of these videos because I don't want to give these people the attention they are craving so desperately, but all of the complaints about Berserk pretty much sum up to the same set of points, and that is These people are claiming that the use of violence, and in particular sexual violence, contained throughout the series is dangerous and a negative reflection of Miura, and it should not be consumed, and it makes the entire franchise bad because these things are only included because apparently they were gratuitous. And it's such a ridiculous way to boil down those themes that took place during the franchise. And also, to give you guys an idea of how serious this all is, every single person who complained about these sorts of themes, they only complained about it when it happened to female characters within the franchise. They never cared about what happened to the main protagonist when he had similar actions, violent actions directed towards him. But they're only focusing on anything that happens to women because in their eyes, if it happens in that instance, it was only because it was gratuitous and had nothing to do to progress the story, and it was just gratuitous fan service included by Miura, who's apparently a bad person in their eyes. And it's so sad to see, after all this time, people still dragging his name through the mud. And like I said, I'm not looking at these threads or showing them in this video for a reason because I don't think these people deserve clout, but it is something I've noticed and I wanted to briefly touch upon. Now, another thing I found very interesting over the past couple of days is the reaction to Colt of the Lamb. Now, this was a explosively popular, independently developed game. It has a lot of dark themes, and after the initial release, a lot of people have been looking forward to some new updated content that's going to be coming out soon. And a lot of people have jokingly commented that they wanted to see, beyond just dark themes, they wanted to see more sexual themes in this game. And I guess teasing at that, on November 23rd, they made this tweet announcing the Sins of the Flesh, their next major content update, which contains all of these characters, bare and bones here, okay? And that had a lot of people caught off guard. Now, people would be even more caught off guard when the official account on Twitter would make this tweet saying, "We will add sex to the game if we hit 300,000 followers by the end of the year." Now, you can see this tweet has 31 million views and nearly 300,000 likes. So let's see how much they gained. Well, they would gain about 130,000 followers this month, but basically, you can see from the graph here, almost all of it took place in the span of about 1 to 2 days. Basically, the 1 to 2 days surrounding the time that the official account made that tweet. And you can see right here, on Wednesday, the day that that tweet was made, they gained 112,000 new followers on Twitter, smashing the record very quickly. And I point that out too because it's very interesting how a game like that can promote or tease sexual themes when it has a lot of what people would consider furry type characters, and it gets such a positive public response on Twitter. But we've seen other independently developed games have other themes like that and get absolutely attacked and blasted. It's just very interesting to look at, and I have no sort of negative reaction to the Colt of the Lamb's growth here. I'm just pointing out that it's pretty interesting, the enthusiasm towards this, but the aggression towards similar projects. And I wanted to point out another interesting thread I saw about translations. And let's start off at the top here. It says, "I've included a few silly nods to Samurai Shodown's history of questionable localization. Some will like them, others won't. They will cope." And this person right here responds saying, "I occasionally snuck silly lines into my projects. The purists will survive the trauma. They'll be fine." So this localizer decided to openly admit publicly, and we've seen this happen many times, that they're sneaking in silly lines that don't really make sense and don't follow the message of the original content, and they're bragging about it. And the original poster would reply saying, "Given such purists are also the sort who think imposing Japanese sentence structure on / including Romanized Japanese words in localized text is more accurate, their opinions can and should be discounted." Now, this goes back to the classic example and metaphor for this sort of thing. It's like you don't need to be a chef to know that the chef overcooked your steak at the restaurant. Like if it comes out charred to a crisp, you don't need to be a trained chef to know that's not what I ordered and that's not acceptable quality. And that's how it is with localizations. Just because you don't speak Japanese doesn't mean you can't point out flaws with localizations. That is within your right. And people think they can just kind of wipe their nose with any sort of criticism are just doing it to protect their own, I guess, interest in providing mistranslations for their own benefit. And this user would quote that saying, Translation patchers are completely indiscernible from professional translators now. I can't tell if they're using this stuff as a resume for a real job or if Japanese to English translators are just all extremely smug and disrespectful. And this got a lot of attention and support, this tweet. And it's not wrong, because a lot of people just are so flabbergasted as to why this is so common and unchallenged within that industry, to the point where any sort of detraction is met with smug reactions. And we all know that people are angry seeing mistranslations in manga, and yet the people making the mistranslations feel so comfortable doing it that they will publicly announce it to everyone. And down here, one of the replies to that tweet would be, maybe the problem isn't actually professional translators, but actually that you don't really know anything about how translation or localization work. This is, once again, excusing mediocrity, because I guess people want an honest product, and if they don't get that, well, they're not entitled to, because they're not a professional translator themselves. It's such a weird way of looking at this, and it gives a break to translators and localizers to basically just do whatever they want, and it really just reinforces their smug attitude towards translations. Now, speaking of mediocrity, I have another update involving Hano Montgomery. We've talked about her many times. She is the director of the now Emmy Award-winning hit piece on the manga industry that we have talked about many times on this channel. And yeah, it gets worse. They not only won an Emmy about a week or two back, but now she has been announced as the new CNN international correspondent based in Tokyo. Amazing. You know what? Honestly, a match made in heaven. CNN and Hano Montgomery. You know, trash meet trash. You know, that's the quality we're looking at here. But nonetheless, I want to point that out quickly because I saw that and I thought you guys would find that interesting. But that's going to do it for this video. I know there's a lot of topics, so of course, feel free to share all of your thoughts about them in the comment section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.